man who will be in Wisconsin calling Maryland and Wisconsin along with Joe Davis and Bruce Feldman on the sideline. He is Brady Quinn. How are you, Brady?
I'm doing well, Rich. Always a pleasure to be on. Thanks for having me.
Right back at you. Let's get right into it. Let's get into this big game, your alma mater against USC. What is it like around campus in Notre Dame in the locker room when it's USC week? What is that like?
Well, I think there's USC week where, neither team is maybe in contention, and then there's USC week where one of them is, and then there's USC week when both are. And that's what we have this week. And I got to tell you, Rich, there's a buzz on campus. I mean, it's unlike anything you've ever felt. You go back to the 2005 matchup we had in South Bend, the Bush push, quote unquote, game, if you will. And you could tell on Tuesday, people started showing up on campus. People were already waiting outside of practice for us to sign autographs and talk to us. I mean, it was that early in the week where you could feel the hype, that the pep rallies that the dorms would put on the quads, and even the pep rally before the game. It was so big, Rich, they had to move it inside the stadium. There was over 40,000 people. The entire half of the stadium was filled, bottom to top, on one half that side, just for the pep rally. It was an entirely different feeling, unlike anything I had really experienced at Notre Dame up to that point in my career. So there's definitely something special about this rivalry, about this matchup.
Well, if you will, is a phrase. It's a way that you can kind of couch the statement that you're making. There's no question Reggie pushed Matt Leinart, Brady. There's no question he shoved him into that end zone.
No,
right?
There's not. But there's a couple rules of thought there.
Yes.
One, USC, you're kind of accustomed to seeing them cheat a little bit, right?
Well,
we know that.
You're talking to a Michigan guy where, they lost a Rose Bowl to USC where someone did not even have the football going over the goal line for a touchdown.
Yeah, so,
that happened.
So look, Rich, they don't have a problem with it, right? But I think I always look at that play, and I've told Matt this. I would have hoped Darius Walker would have pushed me in too if it came down to that, because that's what you think in that situation. As a competitor, you do all you can to win, even if it maybe crosses the line. And today, that play's legal now. So even though it was illegal back then, you can now push a player into the end zone now. So it's not as if we can have as big of a gripe, even though it was illegal back then. And I can see exactly what Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush were trying to do. They're trying to hold on to that win streak. They're trying to hold on to everything that they had built up to at that point in their careers at USC.
And in terms of the current iteration of these teams, how good is Notre Dame in your estimation, Brady?
I think they're really, really good. And I think it really goes back to the base of football, and that's winning at the line of scrimmage. That to me is what I've seen. I had an opportunity to call a Michigan State game versus Iowa this year, so I got to break down a lot of that Notre Dame versus Michigan State game. And one of the things that really popped on film to me was the domination of the offensive line for Notre Dame up front. From center to their left tackle, that is an NFL offensive line playing on Saturdays. That's how good, McGlinchey and Nelson, Mustard, that's how good those guys are up front and how dominant they can be. On the defensive line, you start to see more push against a Michigan State team, which I think you'd admit, Rich, is pretty decent, is pretty good. And Notre Dame looked like the much more talented, much more physical team in that matchup when I was breaking it down on film. So that's the first thing that really stands out to me is, as much as we want to talk about up-tempo offenses and spread offenses, all of that, they win the battle in the trenches, and that's what they're going to have to do versus USC this weekend.
Brady Quinn of Fox Sports joining us here in the DirecTV 4K college football game of the week. And yes, scoreboard is the scoreboard. And Michigan State was a better team that day against Michigan. That said, I would say that Michigan is struggling with a backup quarterback in O'Korn that you personally eyeballed come on that field in Purdue in the second half of the game and move the offense in a way that Wilton Speight wasn't able to do before then. But now where there's a couple of games under O'Korn's belt, it's just been a flat-out struggle on offense. And now here comes Penn State this weekend, which has been on tilt like a pinball machine all season long. How do you see Michigan being able to go point for point in this game, Brady?
That's the tough part, Rich, is I don't know if they can right now the way their offense is played. And you mentioned the game we were calling, Michigan versus Purdue, when John O'Korn came in. He really sparked the offense. And I kind of had high hopes for him being able to continue to replicate that in the ensuing weeks. And I think the hard thing is, as a quarterback, you feel two different ways when you're a backup and you come into a game where you really didn't have any reps, any practice, you don't feel as much pressure because you weren't prepared for the moments. You just go out there and you do the best you can. And sometimes, that feeling of carefree play, if you will, sometimes plays to your benefit. And then you look at the past couple weeks when you are the guy. Everyone's looking at you. Everyone's asking you about certain plays, what's happening, what you like, what you don't like. You start to feel that pressure. And some guys don't internalize that as well as others. And some actually struggle being in that position more so than others. And I think that's been the issue, watching John O'Korn over the past few weeks compared to what I saw with him kind of coming off the bench to replace Spade. So that's going to be the toughest part is if this offense can get in gear versus a really, really good Penn State team that, obviously runs the football well with Saquon Barkley. But it's also, it's the passing game, how they get him touches. It's Trace McSorley, some of the, downfield throwing game, but even the short intermediate passes that I think he's improved from last year to this year with. So it's going to be tough. And look, Penn State's coming off a bye, so they got even more time to prepare as well. And that doesn't bode well for Michigan.
Well, Michigan does have that defense that Penn State has not seen a defense like the one that they're going to be seeing out there on the field on Saturday. Give me the recipe for a surprise on behalf of Michigan, please, Brady.
Well,
it's my pleasure, by the way, to ask a Notre Dame guy this very question. But please go for it, Brady. Go.
I think the biggest thing is going to be try to find a way to stop Saquon Barkley and running the football. And it sounds simple than it is because Trace McSorley is a part of that. But if you could find a way of making Penn State one-dimensional on defense if you're Michigan, that to me gives you the greatest opportunity for success because with your offense struggling the way it has, you've got to play the field position battle. You got to put them behind the sticks on first and second down. So really, if you're Michigan, to me, you got to play tight man-to-man coverage the entire time. You can't afford to play off coverage and give Trace McSorley any easy throws on first and second down to allow them to be in more in third manageable where they keep the entire playbook in. You just can't afford to do that. So they're going to have to play tight. They're going to have to play a lot, utilize a decent amount of pressure at times and mix that in throughout the course of the game to really force Penn State to be a little bit, on their heels and not allow them to have the opportunity to just continue to matriculate the ball down the field like we've seen them have or have big plays. And I think that's the toughest part is, I'm not sure how many guys in Michigan can ultimately really match up with Saquon Barkley in coverage if you do go man-to-man coverage, because that's something that Penn State likes to do.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the position you have to be in, I think, up against this team because of McSorley's ability to run the football and how efficient he's been throwing the football.
And maybe just if he comes out of the backfield, Rashawn Gary just gives him a pop trying to come out of that backfield, knock him off a route or something like that, if that's possible. Unless they split him out wide, then it's a whole different ball of wax, obviously.
Yeah, you can butch the back. That's what they call it a lot of times, try to give a shot on him. But, again, you got to still be able to put pressure on McSorley.
No
I think
doubt.
He's too good if you just let him sit back there and be able to dissect their defense. Eventually someone's going to get open. So that's going to be the biggest issue.
It's going to be a fun matchup, offense, defense like that. Sam Darnold or Saquon Barkley, who's the better pro prospect? Brady?
Man, I would say the way this year's gone, right now I'd say Saquon Barkley. I'm not even really sure if it's that close. After last season, I might have said Sam Darnold after watching what he was able to do. But, this year, look, the biggest thing everyone talks about in the NFL game is the turnover margin, turnover battle. And Sam Darnold just fumbled the football, thrown too many interceptions this season, and it kind of makes you question maybe a little bit of the decision-making. Now, he still has the ability to just, make throws that you don't see happen very often at the college level, especially in big moments. But Saquon Barkley right now looks like a guy who is going to transition very easily to the NFL level.
Can you believe, Brady Quinn, last one for you, that Darnold or Rosen or Allen or, perhaps Baker Mayfield, that the Browns are still they're definitely in the business of looking for somebody like that? You are one of the 28 different starting quarterbacks for that organization since they came back into being. It's really unbelievable.
I'm never surprised by it, though, only because, again, they've implemented the definition of insanity in the way they've handled things. And it starts at the top with Jimmy Haslam, the way he continually keeps firing coaches after 2 years and firing general managers after 2 years. No one's ever there long enough to give you any sort of sense of if anything they're doing is working. But the problem is you can't even build a foundation of a house if you keep knocking it over after every time you get started. And then you have someone come in that wants to change the way they're going to draw the plans for the house and change, where they want to put the garage or where they want to put the master bedroom. That's what you're talking about. You're talking about a team that every single time They try to lay a foundation, set a foundation, start to build something. Someone's coming back in and demolishing it, knocking it back down. It's typically been Jimmy Haslam, their ownership. But as much as you want to talk about the quarterback position, I don't care if it's Carson Wentz or whoever else you want to talk about they passed on at the quarterback position. This team isn't playing well enough out around them to give them help. And that's one of the biggest issues. And I always find it funny, too. They always mention the quarterback position and the guys they passed on. Well, why just limit it to that? Why not start talking about wide receivers they passed on, or other linemen, or other defensive players they've passed on? I mean, you're just only using one position. I mean, clearly there's been a bunch of mistakes as far as how things have worked out for Cleveland. But unfortunately, until they actually have some continuity, they're not going to find whoever that quarterback is, because he's going to get the crap kicked out of him with the inability to protect them, or he's not going to have a lot of success because, like right now, they don't have a ton of playmakers on the outside to help him out.
Well, they do seem to have continuity here, in all honesty, with Sashi Brown and D. Podesta in the front office with Hugh Jackson, But somebody,
though. I mean, Brown's been there, but it's only Hugh Jackson's going into his second year, and then Paul D. Podesta his second year. So
somebody there looked at Carson Wentz. One of those three names I just said looked at Carson Wentz and said, "We don't want him." Somebody said that, and now he's 5-1. It's unbelievable, Brady.
But look at the Eagles team, Rich. I mean, for us to sit there and say what they have built out around him is equivalent to what the Browns have, I mean, you're nuts. They've got one of the best offensive lines, especially when Lane Johnson's in there, there is in the NFL. They've got a bunch of different playmakers now that we're seeing at a 5-1 team they invested into in the offseason, and it's really helped him improve. And they've got a defense. You look at Jim Schwartz, the job they've done with the defense to get him the football, give them better field position. And there's a lot of those things are playing, to his favor. He's a great player. I don't know who made that evaluation. I was really high on him. I'm not sure, how they came to that conclusion. Everyone's got their different formulas and everyone's got their different way of viewing things. But the bottom line is football is the greatest team sport. They still haven't figured out how to build out around it. So whoever's playing quarterback, they can at least help them out. I mean, you can't tell me that the Baltimore Ravens, when they won a Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer as the quarterback, all of a sudden had the best offense. So they had a dominant defense. But the problem is we all keep going back to that quarterback position, acting like that's what wins you Super Bowls every year. Majority of the time, yes, but not every year. You can have a really good team, too, that helps out that quarterback position.
Well, while Michigan plays Penn State this week and then Penn State plays Ohio State this week, Wisconsin's just going to kick back and watch them all try and kick the crap out of each other. They take on Maryland this weekend with you in the booth with Joe Davis and Bruce Feldman. Look forward to that game, Brady. Thanks for calling.
I'm looking forward to it as well. Thanks so much for having me on, Rich.
You bet. That's Brady Quinn of the DirecTV 4K College Football Report.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on radio stations across the country and audience.
If you like that, please download our app. There's lots of fun things there other than just more of the videos you just saw. You can call us from the app. You can email us from the app. Just download it. Trust me, you'll enjoy it.